I used to think loneliness was just a state of mind. Then I took a job as a fire lookout for the U.S. Forest Service in the deep wilderness of Oregon. My home for 3 months was a 12 by 12 wooden cabin, perched on stilts 70 feet above the tree line. No cell service, no internet, just me, a pair of high-powered binoculars, and an old two-way emergency radio. My job was simple: watch the endless ocean of pine trees for smoke. For the first 2 months, it was peaceful, beautiful, even. But the locals in the nearest town, 40 miles away, warned me before I went up. They said these woods were heavy. They told me that when you stare into the wilderness long enough, the wilderness starts looking back. I laughed it off until last night at exactly 2:14 a.m. A massive thunderstorm was rolling over the mountains. The wind was violently shaking my cabin, and rain was slamming against the glass windows. Suddenly, a sound cut through the thunder. A sound that shouldn't exist out here. It was a low, mechanical groan, slowly building into a piercing, rhythmic wail. Wow! Wow! My blood turned to ice. It was an old World War II era air raid siren. I knew there was a rusty, deactivated siren pole about 300 yards down the ridge, built in the 1950s and abandoned for decades. There was no electricity hooked up to it. It was impossible for it to run. I grabbed my flashlight and shined the beam out into the pouring rain, trying to see the ridge. The static on my emergency radio, which had been silent all night, suddenly erupted into a deafening screech. I grabbed the radio, my hands shaking. Base camp, this is Lookout Tower 4. Do you copy? Someone turned on the old air raid siren. Do you copy? No response. Just the rhythmic wailing from outside and the crackling static. But then the static shifted. Through the white noise, I heard a wet, distorted sound. It sounded like a child crying, but the audio was looping perfectly every 3 seconds. Sob, sob, gasp, sob, sob, gasp. I dropped the radio and grabbed my binoculars. I wiped the condensation off the cabin window and aimed them at the distant siren pole. The lightning flashed, illuminating the ridge for a split second. There was something standing at the base of the pole. It was unnaturally tall, at least 9 feet, and impossibly thin. Its limbs looked like charcoal, bending at angles that human bones never could. It didn't have a face, but as the lightning flashed again, I saw 2 piercing, white glowing dots near the top of its elongated head. It wasn't just standing there. It was holding the rusty manual crank of the siren, turning it with violent, robotic speed. The moment my flashlight beam hit the creature, it stopped cranking. The siren slowly groaned to a halt. The woods fell into a terrifying, dead silence. The creature slowly tilted its head back. Those 2 glowing white eyes locked directly onto my cabin window. It knew I was watching. Then, it let go of the siren. It dropped to all fours, its long limbs clicking and snapping against the rocks. And it started sprinting, not away from me, toward my tower. It was moving with terrifying speed, tearing through the dense brush like a spider. I panicked. I locked the heavy wooden door of the cabin and backed away into the corner, clutching a survival knife. Within 30 seconds, I heard the heavy, with thumping sound hitting the wooden stilts directly beneath me. Thud, thud, thud. It was climbing the support beams. The entire tower began to sway. I hid under the small desk, covering my mouth to stop myself from screaming. I could hear its long, sharp claws scraping against the outside wood of my cabin wall. Scratch, scratch, scratch. It reached the catwalk outside my window. The glass fogged up from the outside, through the dark, rain-slicked window. Those two white eyes pressed against the glass, searching the dark room for me. And then my radio on the desk crackled to life one last time, but the voice didn't come from base camp. It came from the creature outside the glass, mimicking my own terrified voice from earlier, distorted and flat. Base camp, someone turned on the old siren. Do you copy? I closed my eyes and prayed for dawn. When the sun finally rose, the creature was gone. The windows were covered in thick, black oily residue. I packed my bags and hiked 40 miles back to town on foot. I'm never going back into the woods. But every time it storms now, and the wind howls through the trees, I can hear that mechanical groan starting up again inside my own ears.